Well, the senator representing the Federal Capital Territory, FCT Kingebe, says the Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, lacks the executive powers that state governors have, and as such, he should learn to operate under the legislative guidance of the National Assembly. FCT Kingebe also decried the appointment of mandate secretaries from among those who are not indigents or residents of the FCT. Senator Kingebe, while speaking to journalists in Abuja after her victory, the tribunal says Wike needs time to study, and I quote, the dynamics of the FCT before issuing demolition threats to residents of Abuja, while agreeing that some structures on waterways and floodplains need to go. Kingebe advised Wike to look at the issues from all perspectives and learn to consult widely with key stakeholders in Abuja. She insists that the mandate secretaries, who are like commissioners, should come from the FCT so as to properly advise the minister of the territory.
You cannot bring mandate secretaries from outside FCT and expect them to excel. Mandate secretaries, if they are zoned, they should be found in the FCT. You can find every zone in FCT people who have lived here for several years, who are politicians or bureaucrats in the FCT. That is necessary. I remember I was speaking to the mandate secretary of agriculture, or one of them, 2016 or 2017. He didn't even know where Kwali was. It's like taking me now to Bayelsa and deciding that because somebody asked that I be given a slot, and then you want to make me a commissioner of anything in Bayelsa. I wouldn't know. You need to know the terrain. You need to know the problems. You need to know to be able to solve them. But the minister is new to the FCT, and maybe he wasn't guided right. But we need to look at that again.
Director of News and Politics Editor Sumner Sambo joins us now. Thank you, Sumner, for coming to Newsnight.
Thank you so much.
Now, the issue now is about the executive powers of the FCT Minister and understanding the issues and being able to connect with the resident of the FCT. Where does the executive power of the FCT Minister start and end?
Well, it actually lies with the president. So, like I had previously mentioned during the election, when Nigerians go to elect a president for the country, they don't know, many do not know that they also elect a governor at the same time. So the president is elected as a president for the whole country and then governor for the Federal Capital Territory on the same day. So when a president is announced, he also automatically, by the 1999 Constitution provisions, Section 299, becomes the governor of the Federal Capital Territory once there's an announcement. So how does the FCT operate, the nation's capital? The way it operates based on constitutional provision is that the governor of the FCT, who happens to be President Bola Tinubu now, exercises the powers of governor, executive powers, but there's a surrogate that the Constitution created to help him exercise that power while he is functioning as the president of the country and having numerous issues to deal with. So that surrogate is the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, and his function is spelled out in Section 302 of the 1999 Constitution, and that 302 actually derives its power from Section 147 of the 1999 Constitution. Section 147 actually says the president has the powers to create as many ministries and have ministers from each part of the country.
Right.
And so that minister in Section 302 that's supposed to administer the Federal Capital Territory will be appointed through Section 147. So once the minister is appointed for the Federal Capital Territory, as is done in Section 302, the minister will now have to work hand in glove with the president to govern the territory.
And the National Assembly, based on what FCT Kingebe has, pointed out. So,
It's a shared power.
It's shared power, not necessarily an executive power.
Yeah, because the National Assembly too also administers the territory, but from the legislative angle, where the president administers the territory from the executive angle. And then there's a chief judge that's the head of the judiciary.
Now, another argument put forward by Ireti Kingebe, which at face value seems like a valid argument, that you cannot appoint mandate secretaries from outside of the FCT. It's better to appoint people from within who understand the territory and the terrain and what have you. Valid argument, but there's another side to it, isn't there? If we're talking about integrating the country, making Nigerians feel welcome wherever they are.
Yeah, you see, it's the failure of the National Assembly to play its role critically.
Right.
Let's start from Section 303 of the of the 1999 Constitution. It says the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and I'm quoting now, shall comprise 6 area councils, and the administrative and political structure thereof shall be as provided by an act of the National Assembly. So the National Assembly can provide an administrative and political structure on how to govern the territory, but they haven't done that over the years. And so what does the executive do? The executive plays its role. The 1999 Constitution gives the president the prerogative to administer the Federal Capital Territory by nominating people as he deems fit. And here, there was an executive creation in 2004. That's Executive Order 001 that was put in place, which dissolved the former Ministry of Federal Capital Territory and created a Federal Capital Territory Administration. That executive order signed by former President Olusegun Obasanjo and implemented by Nasir El-Rufai created these mandate secretaries now. There are now 8 of them, before there were 7. Now, the Constitution says that the president, the exercise of his powers as the governor of FCT, can nominate these people for the minister, or the minister can recommend to the president, and the president, if he so feels comfortable, can allow them to come out. So the president has done that, and from the perspective that the president did that, he feels that there are Nigerians from every part of the country that can fit in. And since FCT is supposed to be for all Nigerians, in quote, then he can bring his mandate secretaries from different parts of the country. Now, Ireti's argument is also valid.
You're right.
As a senator representing the Federal Capital Territory, she's saying that, look, for you to be someone who can administer this place very well, as a mandate secretary, who's like a commissioner, you should have lived there for a long period of time. But why did the National Assembly not create an enabling act using Section 303 constitutional provision and create a political and administrative order to say that, President, you can only use your powers by appointing only those who have lived in Abuja for so number of years. And if you don't have, then you can go outside of Abuja to go and get somebody. But, arguments are valid. We have all shades of Nigerians here, so it should have come from here. But is the president right? Yes. He's not wrong, because he's exercising his prerogative powers.
Yeah, she also spoke about wide consultations, that the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, should be busy now making wide consultations before demolishing any superstructure. What and who do you think Nyesom Wike, the FCT Minister, should be talking to right now before demolishing any superstructure?
Yeah, I mean, she made it very clear there that the FCT Minister doesn't have executive powers himself. And she was very right there. The executive powers in this circumstance only lie with the president, who the minister is just a surrogate for. So in this instance, the people that the minister should be consulting with are the National Assembly, because the status of FCT is shared by the National Assembly and the president. So the National Assembly, which has Senate committees on FCT, House Committee on FCT, should also be carried along, because the Minister of FCT is not elected. He's not a representative of the people. Like the way things are right now, Senator Ireti Kingebe is much more of a representative of the people than Minister Nyesom Wike. But if the minister is also exercising the powers of the governor, who was elected as president of the country and doubles as a governor, then of course they also have shared power. So, but I think that the Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, should learn to get in touch with these House committees on FCT, Senate committees on FCT, the National Assembly, and then of course traditional rulers, we have them here, the indigenous people will have them here, the residents association, and we should not see people's houses being demolished overnight without being given adequate notices.
Right.
Like she said, some of the floodplains here have challenges.
Yeah.
Some of the FCDA officials have also been found wanting, giving people lands where they are flooded areas, like it happened.
Very quickly, the issue of FCT status, not being special or special. If the Supreme Court, you know, in the course of ruling on the case between the Labour Party, PDP, and of course Tinubu, if it does rule that FCT, you know, does not have a special status, it's a state like every other, what then?
Well,
should we expect?
Look, Ngozi, there are already judgment by the Supreme Court. The last one, I think, was 2021, with retired Justice Rose Vival in charge, that stated clearly that FCT is indeed a state. Even in the Court of Appeal, Okoyede versus FCDA, the court clearly stated that FCDA is just like the Ministry of Works of a state. So, you know, if the Supreme Court goes ahead to validate what the Presidential Election Petitions Court said, it will further aggravate the tension that we have, which is the previous agitation by both natives and residents that the executive powers to run FCT, the president should leave that position of governor to residents and FCT indigenes to elect a governor for themselves. The National Assembly should hand over its powers as the legislature for the FCT to residents and indigenous people to elect people for themselves, because this is a carryover of the military. FCT as being run right now is a military contraption. The Constitution contradicts itself. For example, there's the FCT Civil Service Commission that was signed in 2018 by President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, it was signed, but it could not be implemented because the workers here are federal workers. So how could you have now signed the FCT Civil Service Commission Act and then you expect them to draw salaries when they are also being administered by the Federal Civil Service Commission Act? Because of that, the FCT Act is yet to be implemented. And now you see the lawmakers. That's why I'm saying that Section 303 actually speaks to the powers of the National Assembly. It says the National Assembly should have administrative and political structure to be created for the FCT. They haven't done that.
We'll have to leave it there.
And if they don't do that, when you see former governors being appointed, they'll be tempted to think that the FCT is like a state where they can run. And so, Nyesom Wike should know that FCT is not a state. He handles it alongside so much with the president. But in the other long run, when you read the Constitution carefully and Supreme Court interpretation, it also says the FCT is the state. So if you say hermaphrodite state, then let's learn to run it properly.
Hermaphrodite state, that's what the FCT is, and that's according to Sumner Sambo.